The Creative Psychotherapist is the official podcast of the Creative Clinicians Corner, a practice-building resource for creative psychotherapists. TCP Podcast is the cast for creative, expressive, and experiential-focused psychotherapists curious to learn how to design, build, and scale a thriving private practice. Your host, Raina Lombardi, interviews successful therapists about the tools and strategies they have used to develop creative-focused practices. They also talk about the products, services, and side hustles they have developed using their knowledge and creativity to enhance their therapy practices, make a greater impact in their communities, and diversify their income streams. Welcome. Now here's your host, Raina Lombardi. Welcome. Thank you all for joining us today. I am Raina Lombardi, and I'm here with Dr. Lucy Barbera, our guest for the second Voices from the Expressive Therapies Summit special series for the podcast today. And Dr. Barbera, please share a little bit about yourself and your background. And
My background is everywhere, from education to the arts and the expressive arts. Highlight of my background is having the pleasure and the good fortune of studying with Dr. Natalie Rogers, the daughter of Paul Rogers, who took her father's person-centered humanistic approach and added the expressive arts to that. She was a pioneer in the expressive arts, and I was just so fortunate in the 1990s to have met her and worked with her. First trained with her, and then she invited me to work with her institute and travel all over the country and assist her in her trainings. So that pretty much is the highlight of my art therapy career.
And is that like the framework and model that you still approach and how you work?
Exactly. And as an art therapist, there are many, many different ways and approaches and framework to use that for the work that I do and the trauma-informed work that I do. Certainly the person-centered approach seems to be natural. It's the most natural to me. And the most natural, I think, with the arts as another voice or another language that is person-centered and humanistic, that we don't pry words out of someone who is particularly in a traumatized state or a trauma state or in a PTSD state. So to go gently, as the humanistic approach does, to go gently there with what Carl Rogers would say, unafraid eyes, to go there with eyes. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. At what point did you kind of branch off and create your own education programming to train other therapists in this model who maybe they have a background in, say, like social work or counseling? They have a mental health background, but they want to learn more of how to integrate the arts in the work that they're doing. At what point did you kind of expand in that direction?
That's a great question. It happened kind of organically. I did a lot of work in education. I started out as an early educator. I was so much more interested in what children were feeling than what they were learning. So I was kind of an oddball in that way. And so I decided to go into art therapy. And as an artist, as an arts educator, and as an early childhood educator, because I was doing all at once. And then, so I was a school principal, and I was an administrator, and I worked with the state education department. And so I had that parallel track of education, and I was working in higher education. As you know from my CV, I was adjuncting for 23 years at the State University of New York, SUNY New Paltz here in upstate New York. And and my students just wanted a program. They wanted a program desperately, and because my course was just one or two or three courses in a humanistic
Mhm.
education program. Oddly enough, not so strangely. I tried very hard to get that to happen. It didn't for lots of reasons, mostly the way the state budget was going on and financial reasons. But I decided to leave my adjunct teaching and do my own program so that
Mhm.
students would be able to continue postgraduate. And that's why I started the program. Naturally, then the social workers and other people, mental health professionals, heard about the program and wanted to take the program to, like as you said, infuse the arts into their practice because it's a very hands-on, a very gentle approach to going where words alone can't go in the therapeutic environment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how the program started. And it's been 15 years. I've had
Wow.
15 iterations of the trauma informed creative art therapy program, and about seven or eight of the trauma informed Sandplay Therapy program. And I'm really excited, of course, that this iteration beginning on April 11th, 2026, will be hosted by the Expressive Therapies Summit, who I have been with since the inception, and since their inception, and I know you have as well, Rena. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a perfect match and blend. Obviously, that's the goal of the summit is to kind of bring in all of the different modalities and approaches to using expressive arts and creative arts in treatment, however that may look. And so your certificate program seems like a beautiful, marriage of the two. Can you share a little bit about what what are the different things people will be learning about and doing? Because obviously, the methodology of learning about this work is so much about the doing and the experience. So, how is it structured?
So, yes, exactly. Experience. It's structured experientially. And that means, as you know, people will be involved in doing the kinds of activities or modalities, introducing the kinds of modalities that they're going to be using in their own practice, hopefully, and feeling what that feels like for themselves in their own kind of journey. And sometimes students and even practiced clinicians are surprised when they start to cry.
Yeah.
A lot of emotion comes up, and they're like, I didn't think I was going to be feeling this much. And I always say that's a wonderful experience because now you'll know how powerful, art
Mhm.
is powerful medicine, how
Yeah.
powerful these processes will be for your clients, and you'll go judiciously with pendulation. How much now, how much next time, and pendulate back and titrate. Right, the same kind of methods we use in therapy, in standard talk therapy, we use with art therapy.
Mhm.
Those experiences from mask making to journaling to triptych, past, present, future, to really see
Mhm.
how far you've come and where you're going, kind of thing. Those kinds of experiences, the art making experiences, let's put it that way, give the student or the participant in this program the opportunity to experience what their client will be. And also, it gives them the opportunity to tweak those experiences to custom fit the kinds of
Mhm.
folks that they're going to be working with. What would be appropriate? What wouldn't be appropriate? What might be triggering, and how to prepare for that triggering. But as we do in medicine, would the benefits outweigh the risks? And how to accommodate or prepare for any kind of risk on the front end. So we want to use the trauma-informed approach is named that because we want to use every caution in using this very strong medicine called art. And we want to prepare for and offer these methods. Certainly, if a client doesn't want to use the arts, I always stress in my training to sit it out if you're feeling, no, this is not something I want to do. So I model as much as possible what to do in a therapeutic environment.
Mm-hmm.
And the community that's built, Raina, the community, when you share from that place of your heart, which comes out, and your soul, which comes out in the art, when you share from that place, an incredible community emerges, as you probably know in the groups that you run.
Yeah.
Students from all over the world. I have a Bangladeshi woman who is working with women in domestic violence who have suffered domestic violence. And when I pair her with someone here in the States, maybe in California or in Florida or here in New York State, and I pair in a breakout room, those people, it is just incredible when I join those breakout rooms to hear somebody in Bangladesh talking to somebody in California and Florida about what they're doing and how similar the work that they're doing through the arts and how different it is and the cultural differences. And of course, I have a student she's a Syrian refugee, a single mom, a 9-year-old son, and she is now in Lebanon as a refugee under fire right now. She comes to my full day trainings in the program I'm doing right now in Sandplay Therapy in a different space every Saturday to get a full internet and stays for the entire day. And so someone up in Canada at the Micmac territory who is working on the reservation, and people walk into this studio. Students walk into this studio and get to be with that international community. Is that amazing?
That is amazing. When I read that you offered it in a hybrid approach, I was curious about how do you set that up so that the folks that are zooming into you and participating and the folks that are in your studio space are able to engage?
Well, let me just move my camera over here so you can take a look. Got a large camera
How
here.
cool.
And,
Yeah.
a little bit about the space here. I have it on a tripod here just to see people. And then I have a separate studio that is next, just out this glass door here. And that studio is about the size of this one, about 500 square feet. And then I have a lot of breakout space as well. So so this is it. This is the place. People have come from as far away as the Canadian border and of course Pennsylvania, up from Pennsylvania to attend in person. I have a student in Ohio that just promises she's coming. So I'm hoping before the end of the Sandplay series that she'll come as well. But we make it so that everyone feels welcome. The breakout, certainly people in the studio will bring their cell phone and bring their laptop or their tablet, and they will join in the dialogue groups that way. We have a hot seat here with a mic and a camera where people in the studio will come up and speak to the people online, which is very cool and fun. Right now, we're just finishing up Sandplay Therapy, and Sandplay Therapy involves Sandplay by proxy. So someone is holding their cell phone, literally, holding their cell phone up. I mean, we have photos of all of
Hmm.
for the person in Lebanon to choose with a basket on her arm to choose what she wants to put in the sand tray.
Wow.
Brings the basket over and takes instruction on how to set up that sand tray, and then does an interview and a
That's
counseling
that's
practice.
really cool.
It's really, I haven't seen it anywhere in the world yet, sand play by proxy, but it works. It works so beautifully. I have to get somebody to film it. It's really amazing. I have clips of it, and there are clips of it on my website, which is arttherapycertificate.com. If you go into sand play, but I want to talk a
Yeah.
little bit about the trauma informed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have been so fascinated in my study of neuroscience of trauma, and it's not neuroscience that I'm reading. It's like the real great researchers who kind of synthesize it down for us lay people. And what I have found in my research is that research of the research is that the right hemisphere of the brain is where the human's response is generated, the stress response is generated. The right side of the brain is where trauma is stored, and it is stored in images.
Hmm.
And the left side of the brain, that's responsible for the analytical and the sentence making and the sense making, is almost like disconnected in trauma.
Hmm.
So automatically, there are no words. And automatically, there are these images, and they are
Yeah.
stored in the right hemisphere of the brain, which is where the arts are generated.
Hmm.
And it's almost like this incredible design that the actual healing medicine is right exactly located neurologically where the trauma is stored.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
It's really interesting too. I was just at an intensive EMDR training this weekend that integrates Jungian ideas into the approach. And a lot of what we were talking about really had to do with what you're sharing right now is like people will come in, they'll say, I don't know why, but I just have like I have this picture of an egg. I don't know why the egg is there, right? But then once you start to go in and process the trauma, then the rest of it reveals itself through the person's association as they're reprocessing. And it's true. Sometimes there are no words. It's disconnected from the actual event, but it's just that snapshot um, image. And if
Yeah.
we really listen and allow somebody to work with that image um, and allow it to move, we can help them along in their process. So
Mhm.
um, that's really
Absolutely.
interesting.
Absolutely. And what a relief. What a relief for folks to have. It's almost like being in a foreign country and you're trying to get help for your trauma, and everyone's speaking a different language and they're not hearing you, and there doesn't seem to be any way for you to get the medicine you need, and then all of a sudden you have someone who's able to allow you to make images and allow you to make sound and allow you to do movement and allow all these other languages, and then
Mhm.
finally you're feeling heard. And not only that, then the images start giving you healing messages
Yes.
that words alone are not going to give you.
Right.
And then you're able on that right side of the brain to start journaling about your images and asking the image a question, right? And then a poem will spring from that, which is the same right brain kind of generated creative expression, right? So it's just a balm to the soul.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah.
And social workers and licensed mental health professionals and licensed psychologists are just so eager and so thirsty for these methods. And so
Absolutely.
even after the first session, I find the second session when we're checking in, people say, I tried that. And I tried what we did scribble emotions to music. And I tried it with, my, whoever it was with my teen group at the school, whatever. And I had the most amazing response. And they said it was the best group they ever had. It was just, so there's an immediate application. And by the way, when I talk about school psychologists and social workers and all of the people that are really interested in the program and have over the years, many, many, many have taken the program and have used it. And I get beautiful messages, throughout the year from people who have used the approaches so successfully. And they send me pictures of what they're doing, and it's just wonderful. But I also have to say, Raina, there are what I call teaching artists or compassionate artists in
Yes.
communities all over the country, all over the world, because the
Mhm.
person in Syria right now who I talked about, Syrian refugee in Lebanon who I talked about earlier, she does clowning in the refugee camps. How beautiful is that?
That is really cool.
Kids and to release the tension and the strain. She does clowning. She's a clown, and she found my course. It's just amazing. So the artists, the compassionate artists, as I call them, some of them working in facilities with the aged population,
Mhm.
some of them working with people with developmental delays or differently enabled, people who are working with, as I said, you know, domestic violence shelters, people like
Mhm.
that. And they've been doing arts. They're licensed art educators, and they've been doing healing arts for
Mhm.
so many years, no more than newly minted, clinical therapists about how to titrate, and how to be careful. And how the window of time we talk about in the training, the window of time, the tolerance window, and the
Yeah.
reconsolidation window. How does the right brain talk to the left? These folks take my training. These
Mhm.
folks take my training, and I learn as much from them as they learn from me. Is
I'm
that
sure.
amazing? In fact,
Yeah.
the second session of the training that will be starting in trauma-informed creative art therapy on April 11th, that second training, I don't have the date in front of me, it's 2 weeks later in April. I will have a guest in the afternoon who works with incarcerated youth here in New York State,
Mm.
and the kinds of programs based in art that she puts together for these kids is so amazing. To hear her speak and to show examples of what she's doing and what the kids are doing
Mhm.
and their goals for their lives, even in incarceration. It's just beautiful. You're just so inspired. You just want to go up and hug her for doing this amazing, almost like bodhisattva work, like an enlightened being on the planet doing this work with the arts. So yeah, I try to bring in as many guests as I can, working in the field, doing amazing work. I have guests coming in who do work with Thomas Hubel, who does the intergenerational and collective trauma work. And they talk about their work in the world and how they use the arts in that way, and different modalities that way. So I have music therapists come in to show the creative connection. Now that was Natalie Rogers' big contribution,
Right.
was the creative connection. How one art form, if you may paint a picture, and if you go a little bit more deeply with that same image and give it a voice, as I said, in journaling, and then do some movement with it.
Mhm.
Witness, to keep it nice and safe with a witness, to do a psychodrama about that, right? My goodness, that creative connection, as Natalie said, brings us even deeper and deeper and deeper and gives us back more information and more healing messages.
Right.
So that's what I like to do in the training, mix it up as much as possible with other creative artists and other people working in the field, compassionate artists,
Mhm.
teaching, teaching licensed art therapists, right? Because they're in the program as well. So it's
Yeah.
wonderful to do that.
S-
Yeah.
So it sounds like there's a lot of intermodal processing happening in the way you go about teaching the different approaches, and that you're pulling in all of these different folks that are engaging in using art as a healing um, a healing property, whether they're working as an educator or facilitator or a therapist, because there's space for all of it. It's all important work. Um, and in some places, I would imagine it might not even be possible for therapists to be doing certain kind of work, depending upon what's going on, like in the world, in certain crisis situations. It may not be, but maybe there is an educator there that has this background that can be delivering hope
Yes.
and healing to people.
That's a beautiful way to put it. They are delivering hope and healing. It is very true. There'll be therapists who take the program who work in a homeless shelter, and they might have that one opportunity and never see that child again, right?
Yeah.
But that one, and we know when we think back on our own lives, there was one person in our life, or there was one experience in our life that changed our lives, that
Mhm.
made a difference in our lives. And I'm hoping that these seeds, wherever they are, which are the people who are doing this hope and healing work that you so beautifully phrased, will be that person in as many lives as possible. Yeah.
Mhm. So if somebody takes this course that you're offering, how many times do you meet? Because it's not a one-time thing, where a lot of the training that the summit does, it's like 1 day or 2 days, and it's usually right after maybe like a Saturday and Sunday. But yours is spread over the course of a couple of months. How is it formatted? So if people are interested, they would know, okay, I'm going to have to budget these days and times to be able to participate in it in its entirety, which is what, of course, you want to do if you're going to invest in a program, is to be part of that community or cohort for its entirety, to really pull out all of what you need to be effective.
Absolutely. There are 6 sessions, and they are 6-hour sessions. They start 10 o'clock Eastern Time in the morning. There's a 15-minute break in the morning. There is an hour lunch break and a 15-minute break at the afternoon, and we end at 5 in the afternoon. And those are again Eastern Standard Time. And you can imagine the people in the Middle East and the people in Asia, yeah, Central America. I have European Union folks taking the course, and you can imagine the commitment to stay up all night, in some case, get to bed 5 in the morning, to
Yeah.
take this course. I had a doctoral student in psychiatry working with an NGO in Malaysia, and he was up all night to take this course and just couldn't get enough of it. He took the Sandplay as well. So yeah, so the program is 6 Saturdays, but one of the Saturdays is a built-in makeup day, which means any of those Saturdays that you cannot absolutely make because you have a prior commitment, or your child, unfortunately needs you, or fortunately
Yeah, you get
has you,
sick.
yeah, or something gets sick, or some emergency arises, you still have the benefit of all of the handouts and all of my lecture, because I kind of go between didactic, theoretical, and practice. No, it's
Okay.
essential. So everyone is going to get a lot. History of art and play and human evolution is one of my theoretical talks. And of course, the neuroscience of trauma 101 that we talked about earlier is one of
Yeah.
my talks. And then a lot of case studies, Raina, because case studies
Okay.
hit it home. When you see a case study, beginning, middle, end, and the artwork and how it evolves and the healing that ensued. Yeah. So that is the schedule. Um, Again, it is with the one makeup day. And we used to, in the past, I used to have, well, this is the makeup day, and I thought, and it was just crazy because that's not the one day that everybody can make, nor is it the one, so
Right.
tried to say you pick your makeup day. But you know what's interesting? Um, Many people don't need a makeup day, and they get 36 hours of training, for 30 hours of cost. So,
That's
and
amazing.
I don't mind doing the extra because it's a beautiful process. Just to be in community, it's an honor for me to be in community with people who are true seekers. They're really
Hmm.
here to help want to help the world and make a difference in the world. And so I want to support them as much as possible. Doing that work. Yeah.
Yeah, I think too, what's so lovely about this approach is it's a parallel process. So, folks are learning how to facilitate this experience for others while they are experiencing it and doing their own work for themselves, which I've been a therapist for a really long time, and I will say that just knowing myself and knowing my community of colleagues, sometimes we aren't the best at like taking our own medicine and carving out that time for ourselves to slow down and be intentional and dig deep and do our own work. So being able to participate in a program like this, it's like the best of both worlds because you're getting to take care of yourself and really refuel yourself, but also learning a lot of important information that will be valuable in practice to
Mhm.
facilitate with others.
Absolutely. I don't bill it as self care, but it certainly falls under that rubric.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. I know I feel like I can only speak for myself. I know I have to be intentional about carving out that time for myself and making sure I'm reinvesting in my own arts practices and processes, whether that's making time to journal, making time to create art. And I know from talking with other people too, they might go for stretches of time where they're like, I didn't realize I was missing it. And it's because they weren't being intentional about setting the time. So having a training like this, it it gives you an intense amount of time because you're 6 days for 6 hours. That's 36 hours in total over the course of a couple months. That's a really nice gift to the self.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So often in the trainings, I find that it's doctor heal thyself kind of,
Mm,
and also
yeah.
very much wounded healer, and those go
Mhm.
together. So there are many, many wounded healers that go into the profession to help others in
Mhm.
whatever capacity, and there are very much very many of them need a doctor heal thyself lecture, but it doesn't even come as a lecture. It comes built in because they're
Right.
experiencing so much of it and feeling the healing benefit of it for
Mhm.
themselves. And it's almost like I have to kind of snap my fingers and say, okay, we're switching channels here. We just took a break. We're switching channels. We're not in that world anymore of the triptych and the mask. We're going to talk about what happened. How did that feel? What happened when you started journaling? How did it feel to share it with someone? What kind of questions do you ask about them with your partner? And what kind of questions don't you ask? Kind of thing.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
it's important. It's just as,
Mhm.
is it your need and desire to know, or is it therapeutic for the person? Where is your
Right.
question? Where are your questions based? You know.
Right. Is the question going to add value to the therapeutic process?
And in terms of the feedback too, Raina, it's like you're not analyzing somebody's art. You don't want your art analyzed because 9 times out of 10, it's going to be wrong analysis. Who is the expert? Natalie used to say this all the time. The expert in knowing what their art means is the person who created it.
Absolutely. Absolutely, especially if we're leaving it open for the unconscious material to come forth in the artwork, only the creator is going to know what those symbols are, what those associations are,
And
because
your
they're all
job is
unique to us.
right. And our job as clinicians and as helpers is to help the person see what they've
Mhm.
just done and then draw from that by being inquisitive about what you're looking at in their art and by noticing things in the art and just pointing the things that you notice out without judgment or evaluation, right? And
Right.
then if you do have some feedback, if you see something that's just so glaringly obvious and the person hasn't spoken about it, you might say, are you open to feedback? And then if they say yes, then say, when I look at this, I see. So you're owning your own projection. Again, this is a Natalie Rogers tenet. You own your projections in this work. So these fine little details are all gone over, the guidelines for discussing visual art and all of that, and methods for processing art, a Gestalt method, an EMDR method. We go over those kinds of things. Lucia Capaccione's journaling methods.
Mm.
I am the one who, the soul collage
Yes.
method from Sheena Frost, and so we try to incorporate as much of those wonderful methods of journaling and of processing art into the training.
I love that. That
Yeah,
sounds like folks will get a very, very um, rich dynamic pool of materials to take with them and apply in the world from a variety of different practitioners. I hear a lot of integrative um, approaches in how you're presenting the work that you do. You're like pulling from a bunch of different sources, not just one.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, what, if anything, would you want folks that are interested in taking this training to know about what to expect if they sign up?
I would say they would expect to be surprised pleasantly, to be in awe of their own
Mhm.
creations, of their own processes, of their own discoveries, of their own learning. Yeah, I think we underestimate the cultural narrative that we kind of brought up with, which is there are certain people who are creative and certain people who are not creative. And the people who are creative are in this bracket, and the people who are not are in this bracket. And so, and it's a narrative that I try to dispel by saying that, by talking about the history of art and play in human evolution and how it was a survival tool, 300,000 years, where mom walked 10 kilometers to find cowrie shells to weave into the baby's garment to make it special. This is from Diseniake. She's a professor and a
Yes.
theorist, yeah, out in Washington State. Or another 10 kilometers in the other direction for red ochre to decorate the body and make it special. So we've been making things special, not just Seniake's work, but so many others, Dutton, and it goes on. And then in terms of play, Hunziker and various others, who have said, we've been doing this forever. And, this is nothing new. And in fact, indeed, it's a birthright. And so for
Yes.
me, access to the arts is a human right. Access to creative process is a human right. We're thirsty, we're hungry for it, but we don't know what we're hungry for because we've been told that we're not that. We're not entitled to that. We can go shop till we drop, but we can't create our own beauty because we're not artistic. So I'm trying to dispel and help my students, my participants, dispel that. Because many say, I can't draw a stick figure. And I say, great, because we're not doing stick figures. It's not about a gallery show. Although
Right.
I've curated many gallery shows of arts for healing all over the place, all over the tri-state. And it's not about that. It's about healing, expressing healing. And the biggest takeaway, I think, for my participants is that they're allowed to be creative without evaluating or putting their own work down, that they can scribble. They can scribble. And they don't
Yeah,
have to look at the person next to them and say, oh, are they scribbling better than I am?
that's true. People aren't comparing those.
They're not comparing them. But believe me, I've seen people do it. And it's like after a while, they realize I'm competing with nobody but myself. It's like nobody
Yeah.
cares. It's your feeling. Nobody knows what that exquisite expression, that feeling is coming from in that moment. And you may never have that feeling again. It's just spectacular. So the power of beauty to heal is endless. Beauty, some people think it's superfluous, just the way some school districts think that the arts are not necessary, you know what I mean? But it's necessary, and it has been necessary for survival. Why are we still doing it if it's not?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it certainly with play, we know that like that's how we learn to solve problems and make sense of the world as young people. And I think it's so important for us. And uh, as creative arts therapists, expressive arts therapists, I think that is part of the important part of the work is helping adults realize that it's okay to play and play is still important, even in their adult life, that just because we're no longer a child doesn't mean that play, and I think creativity in general is part of being playful, that it that it's still really important for us, and we have to find ways to infuse it in our life in order to have meaning and
Mhm.
purpose.
Absolutely. Some theorists say that it started with play, that art is kind of a subset, or a specialized form of play. And I love that theory. I've seen it in many places. Diseniake certainly has
Mhm.
talked about that a lot. Certainly Fordham, Michael Fordham talks about play, all of it. But I love it. I love that people can, that you can see a group of people who are very kind of tightly held together and very professional. And all of a sudden, they're like smiling and laughing, and the creativity unleashes so much potential for solving problems, right?
Yeah.
And that's a takeaway and a learning. I think that most participants are not coming into the program to start with. They're not coming in to say, I am going to have so many ideas about what kinds of groups will work for who, and what kind of programs I can create in the community. They're not probably wouldn't start out taking the program um, with that question in mind or with the hope of having that takeaway, but many of them do walk away with that.
Yeah. Just a natural part of the process for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, if listeners are interested in doing this training with you. Obviously, this is not the last time you'll be offering it, but for this year, it's running April 11th through June 13th.
Mhm.
What is the best way for people to register to take the training?
They can go directly to my website, which is arttherapycertificate.com. arttherapycertificate.com. And there's a registration link that will take them directly to the Expressive Therapies Summit registration page.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
And is there a deadline for people to register if they want to be enrolled?
We will enroll people as long as there's room in the program. Um,
Okay.
in the studio, I have room for about 12 to 14 people comfortably. Of course, I can fit.
Mhm.
I want people to be comfortable. And then online, I believe I told the institute, the summit, that I would take as many as 35 people.
Oh, wonderful. So that'd be a really robust program.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
the community, the networking, right? Oh my goodness. And the opportunity to meet people from all over the world and to do um, programs together, collaborative programs together. It's just incredible. So, yeah, so there is no deadline as I know it from the summit, but I say I'll take a person, they show up on the day of. I
Okay.
will take them. I have plenty of handouts and I have advanced, articles that in case people, because there are people who really like that to really get,
Absolutely.
get their act together that way. And so those will be available in my talks. Most of them are on Prezi. So I'll send a link so they can go right to Prezi and see my talks, like that. So
Very
anyone who has
accessible.
the real desire to take this program will get into this program. Let's put it that way.
Wonderful. I think it's a really great opportunity for people that want an immersive experience in the creative arts that perhaps they did not get because they didn't go to an arts therapy program or an expressive therapy program. This is a really great way of adding that to what they do, and um, they'll be fortunate to be able to study with you, Dr. Barbera, and kind of you know in I'm losing my words, but you're a student of Natalie Rogers. And so, in some way, really getting to benefit from everything that you learn from working with her. And
Mhm.
with,
Absolutely. It's a legacy, and
yeah,
I take it very seriously. It's a lineage, and I am so proud to be in that lineage, in her lineage, and her father's, and carry the work forward. And again, as you said, to integrate as many thinkers and as many practitioners as possible who bring something new and
yeah,
exciting and effective to the practice of therapy with the arts.
I love it. Well, if you're, listening, please do uh, check out Dr. Barbera's website, arttherapycertificate.com. You can register for the training through there or through the Expressive Therapies Summit.com website, and you'll see the trauma informed certificate program. So you'll leave with a certificate. You're going to have an immersive 6-day intensive experience. You're going to leave with lots of rich information and didactic materials. It just sounds like a winner. And honestly, I think it's the cost is so accessible and affordable as well for the 36 hours of CEs and being able to walk away with confidence to facilitate real intermodal processes with clients. I think it's such a valuable resource. So thank you for doing that and offering that to the community of practitioners.
Thank you, Raina. And the CEs for most licensed professionals would be 3 years of CEs in 3 months, in 6
Yeah,
3 years of CEs. So it's a lot of CEs.
which is fabulous because we all need them for our different licenses and stuff. So, well, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to speak with me, to share about your work and share about this amazing program that you're offering for other practitioners. And I'm just really grateful for the time today.
Thank you so much, Raina. It was a beautiful interview. Thank you.
I'm going to put our outro music on and thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Creative Psychotherapist. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. For show notes, downloads, and additional resources, head over to the website at www.creativeclinicianscorner.com. Thanks for listening to this episode of The